Hi everyone, this is Sandra and this is the Workwear jumper tutorial. So let's talk about the Workwear jumper. First of all, if you're here, it's probably because you've purchased my pattern, and I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Every single time someone buys one of my patterns, I do a little jig inside. And if you're here, it's probably because you have some questions, so hopefully this tutorial will help you answer all of those questions. Now, this is one of the most loved patterns that I've ever released, and I totally know why, because it's such an easy, simple construction, and the effect is quite cool, you know, with the cables running in the middle, and this nice little neckline over here is just such a cool look, and it looks great on boys and girls. I mean, I made this one for my husband, and I probably wear it more than he does. It's the truth. Super comfy. This is the extra large, and yeah, it fits him and myself really, really well. Great jumper to make, very, very easy, but since it's one of my most loved ones, it's also one of the ones I get the most questions about. And most of the questions surround the charts, how to follow charts, because a lot of people don't feel very comfortable using crochet charts, which it's hard for me to understand because I love crochet charts. They make life so much easier. So hopefully in this tutorial I can go over how to follow those charts so that you learn to love them as much as I do. And then you'll realize how easy it is to follow instead of using words. But yeah, so the charts are an issue for some people, and also the setup row at the very beginning where you put the raglan markers can be a little bit tricky for some people. So if you've tried this pattern before and you really just couldn't make it, I totally get it. So I've gone through the whole PDF and arranged it a little bit better, changed some of the wording to try to make it more readable and a little bit clearer. And I've also added this tutorial, so hopefully now there is nothing stopping you from making your first workwear pullover. Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to go over the charts, and I'm going to go over that setup row, and I'm going to work all the way until you join at the front. Okay, so you will see how this diagonal is worked in the chart, and you will see how it is joined at the front as well. Now, my sample is a tiny sample because I didn't want to do a whole yoke, so I've worked only the front of the jumper of the size extra small or size 1, and I've kind of minimized it a little bit because it's quite small, as you can see. So hopefully this will be enough for you guys to understand. I've gone over it during the tutorial, and I think it should be enough. So let's get started then. Let's talk about charts. Now, I love charts, like I said, and mostly because they are a very clear visual representation of what you're going to do in yarn. And if you're able to match up the stitches on the chart with the stitches on your work, you can simply just look where your next stitch is going to go, and it's very, very easy. But I can understand how some people might find that a little bit challenging. So we're going to go over all of the stitches that these charts use, and then how to actually make them with yarn. So let's look at the stitches first. Now, we have 3 different kinds of stitches in this chart. We are using single crochet, and we are using front post double crochet and front post treble or triple crochet. Now, I've tried to separate the right side rows from the wrong side rows by making them a different colors. So the wrong side rows are in gray, and then the right side rows are going to be in blue or red. All of the red stitches are front post stitches, and all of the blue stitches are regular stitches, which are all single crochet. All right, so hopefully this gives you a very visual, clear image of, okay, wrong side row, always single crochet on the chart. Right side row, if it's blue, it's a single crochet. If it's red, it's a front post stitch. All right, and remember the front post stitches are kind of done above your work, and that's what gives it this texture look that looks really, really cool as a cable. All right, so those are the types of stitches that we have, and that's why those rows are a different color. All of the charts in this pattern are read from the bottom up. That means that the very, very bottom row is going to be where you start. And when it comes to the direction right to left, left to right, it's a little bit trickier because at the beginning of the row, you are working on one end of your neckline and you start from right to left. But then when you go around your yoke on the other end, you read it from left to right. So you're going to turn that around a little bit so that you can fit it in the other side and it's a mirror image of each other. Okay, so always bottom up and then right to left at the beginning of your row and then left to right at the end of your row. And that's going to become a lot clearer when we work our sample. So let's get started then. We're going to do first the setup row, and then after that we're going to work through the charts to make sure that you know how to make all these stitches and you know how to use them. All right. Okay, so this is my initial chain. It's just a normal chain and I've made sure that I have the right amount of stitches. And then I'm going to start with the first row. So I'm going to skip the first chain and start on the second one. And it says single crochet and PM1. That's place marker 1. That's going to be my neck marker. So I'm going to use a blue marker and make a single crochet there. And then it says again to single crochet and PM2, which is a raglan marker. So I'm going to do that again. Place my marker on top and then single crochet one more. So there are 2 stitches so far and each one has a marker on it. And then I'm going to do 8 single crochets for my sleeve. Okay, now that I have finished my sleeve, I'm going to do the next raglan marker, which says single crochet and PM3, that's place marker 3. Okay. And then I'm going to work the back, 23 single crochets. Okay, so those are my back stitches. And now I'm going to work my next marker, which is a PM4, place marker 4. And then I'm going to work my sleeve stitches. And now I have 2 stitches left, which is my front, and I'm going to single crochet and PM5, which is also a raglan marker. And then single crochet and PM6, which is my front marker. Once you have it like this, you can see very clearly the different sections of the yoke. So the purple markers are my raglan markers. The front markers are obviously at the front. So I have 2 stitches at the front. So I have the front marker and the raglan marker. And then I have my back stitches, including the markers, and then the sleeve stitches in between the markers. Okay, so this is your setup row, and this is probably the most important row of the pattern, because if you get this wrong, then you won't be able to fit the charts or anything else. So I'm going to just work the increase row with you to show you how you increase on those. So on a raglan increase row, you will only increase on raglan stitches, which means that you will chain 1, the turning chain doesn't count as a stitch, then you will single crochet to before the first raglan marker. In this case, it's only 1 stitch, right? So I'm going to pass all my markers and I'm going to single crochet until before my next raglan marker. And then I'm going to increase 2 in the mark stitch, making sure to keep my marker in the middle stitch of the increase, which means on the second stitch. Okay, so I have increased 2, I've made 3 single crochets and my marker stays in the middle. And then I will repeat this 2 more times. Again, now that I am at my marked stitch, I will increase 2. So 1 marker on the second one, 2 and 3 stitches in my marked stitch. Okay, after repeating that 2 times, I am before my last marker, so I will increase in that raglan stitch and then single crochet to the end of the row, which means just 1 more stitch. Okay, and then turn, and my next row, which is a right side row, I will single crochet to the end of the row. Always making sure you pass all markers, that you move up all the markers where they go. All right, now the next row, which is going to be a wrong side row, is going to be a neck and a raglan increase row, which means that you will increase at the end at the neck and also on all the raglan stitches. So you're going to chain 1, then increase 1 in first stitch, which means you're going to make 2 stitches, and you're going to place the marker in the second stitch of the increase. So 1, and this is the second stitch that I'm going to make. So I'm going to place my marker, and 2. Okay, so you can see that the marker is in my second stitch. And then going to single crochet to before raglan marker, which means just 1 more stitch. And then increase 2 and mark stitch, again keeping the marker in the middle stitch. So 1, see, 2 and 3. And then single crochet to before the next raglan marker, and I'm going to repeat that at every raglan stitch until the end of the row. All right, I've worked my last raglan increase, and then I'm going to go to my front stitch. So single crochet to last stitch, increase 1 in last stitch, which is my marker, and it says place marker on first stitch of increase, which is this guy, and then 1 more in that last stitch. Okay, now from now on, the front marker is going to stay in this stitch. So when you increase, you're going to increase in the last stitch, but your marker is going to remain right there because you want to you want to see how many stitches you have increased at the neck after this marker. Okay, so here you can see very clearly how the neck is increasing, and each raglan is very clearly marked now because it's folding over at the corners. Now I'm going to continue making the sample, but I'm only going to work the front stitches instead of working the whole yoke because it's a bit pointless for this sample. But I do want you to see how the front increases and how the cables are worked. So I'm going to work my next repeat, which is rows 2 to 5, increasing at the raglan and at the front on every alternate wrong side row, and I will show you how that looks like after those repeats, okay? Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. I have 8 rows here. I'm doing the extra small, and as you can see, there are 2 stitches after my marker at each front. And now I am ready for the next section. So in the next section, what you do is remove these front markers, and now you're going to place some seven stitches from the end of your work. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in my size, this is the extra small or size 1, is going to be the one right before the raglan marker. That is my 7th stitch. And I'm going to do that on the other side too. And what that marker is going to do is tell me where the chart ends and starts. Okay, so I'm on this end, I'm going to work this way, and I'm going to skip this bit because I'm just being lazy. And then I'm going to work this end over here. Okay, now if we look at the chart, you can see that the very first row of the chart, which in my case is row 8, represents this row that I have just worked. So if you compare it with this side, it would look more like this. So you have the increase 2, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that is row 8, and you can see it on the other side. So I have my increase 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that is the first row of the chart. Now I'm going to start with the following row, which in this case is lovely because it's just a single crochet row. So I'm going to work single crochet until the front marker, which is this guy. And then I'm going to single crochet all around until my next front marker, making sure to move up all my markers as I go. Okay, so here I have worked single crochet until my front marker, and then I'm going to work chart 1 to the end of the row, which again, it's just single crochet to the end of the row. Now this is a row 10, which is a wrong side row. If you remember, on the wrong side rows is where we increase at the marker, at the raglan marker. So this is what we're going to continue doing on this wrong side row. So I'm going to single crochet to the first raglan marker and then increase there, and then I'm going to increase in every raglan marker around the yoke. So this is now where the fun starts, because I'm going to start doing front post stitches to start the cables motif. This is a row 11, which corresponds to row 11 on the chart, which is over here. Now to do a front post stitch, it might seem a bit daunting or complicated, but it's basically worked around the post of the stitch, which is the body of the stitch. Okay, when you do front post stitches, we go in to the back and then back to the front. When we go back post stitches, we do the other way around. We go through the back to the front and then back to the back. Okay, in this pattern, all we do is front post stitches, which means that you're going to go in between stitches and around the body of a stitch to pull through and work your stitch. Now the very first stitch is a front post stitch on the first stitch of the previous 2 rows. So not this one, which was the last stitch, but this one over here. So you can see that this is the very first stitch. So I'm going to go in through here. So this bit before the stitch was the turning chain. So I'm going to go in between the turning chain and the next stitch. And then I'm going to, before that, I need to yarn over. I'm going to go in between the chain and the stitch, and then the stitch and the next stitch. I'm going to pull through and work my double crochet there. Okay, then the next stitch is a single crochet. So I'm going to skip that very first stitch because that's already made. And then I'm going to go to the next one and single crochet there. And it goes for 2 front post stitches. So which one corresponds to this stitch? Well, I just count them. So I've worked this one. This next stitch then belongs to the next stitch, which I've done single crochet. So then I'm going to do my next post stitch in that 3rd stitch. The good thing about using charts is that this is very clearly visible. So you can translate it into yarn much easier than with words. So I've done my 2 front post stitches, and the next one is a single crochet. Again, I'm going to count 2 stitches that I've done front post, and then the next one is going to be where I work my single crochet. And the last stitch of my chart is another front post stitch. Just like before, I did my front post in this stitch, so I'm going to skip the next one and do my front post in the following stitch. Also, the markers come in really handy here because they show you which is the last stitch of your chart. And then I will continue because this is a right side row, so I will simply single crochet all around, moving all my markers up. Alright, so here I have worked up to my next front marker, which means I'm going to work my chart in those last 6 stitches. And before we read the chart from right to left, now we're going to read it from left to right. The first stitch is a front post stitch. If you're not sure which one it is, which I believe it's this one, you can always count them from the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is going to be where I do my front post stitch. And then the next one is a single crochet, so I skip 1 and single crochet in the next one. And then 2 front post stitches. Again, skip 1 over here and then go to the next one. 1, 2, single crochet, so skip 2, go to the next one, and front post in the last one, which, since it's the last stitch of the row and there's no turning chain over here, I'm simply going to go around it along the edge. And there you go. This is the first portion of the cables. Now the next row is a wrong side row, which means that it's an increase row. Either you will increase at the markers and not on the neckline, or you will increase at the neckline and at the markers. In this case, I do have an increase, as you can see here. So I'm going to increase 2 at the front on that very first stitch, or increase 1, sorry. And then single crochet to my next raglan marker and increase 2 at the raglan marker. And just like before, at the end of my row, I will read the chart on the opposite way, which means from the left to the right, and that means that in my last stitch, I will increase 1. So as you can see, I am following the pattern that I had before, in which I increase at the neckline every 4 rows, but I increase at the raglans on every 2nd row. Okay, and now I'm going to turn. So now it's time to do more front post stitches. So this is row 13 for me. I've highlighted over here. And we're going to work 3 single crochets. Remember that right side rows are blue and red, and wrong side rows are gray. So you can see that there are 3 blue X's or crosses here, which are 3 single crochets. So I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to make a front post stitch that connects where I am to this stitch that I made before, to this front post stitch. So I'm going to yarn over 2 times. And I'm going to insert my hook in the post of this other stitch over here and make a treble crochet or triple crochet. And then I'm going to do another one, but connecting this post stitch over here. So 1, 2 yarn overs, insert my hook around the post of that stitch and make my triple crochet there. And then since I've done 2 stitches, I'm going to skip 2 stitches at the back and work 3 single crochets at the end. Okay, I've skipped 2. 1, oopsie. Oh, sorry, just 2, not 3. 2. There you go, and you can start seeing that little V's and your front post stitches. And here I am at the front marker, so I will simply pass my marker and single crochet all the way to my next front marker. Okay, and just like before, I'm going to read my chart backwards, starting from the left. So 2 single crochets, 2 front post stitches, and then 3 single crochets. So let's start with the 2. 1, 2. Now this is a vertical front post treble, right? Sorry, a slanted front post treble, which means that it's going to connect to this post stitch over here. So I yarn over 2, insert my hook in between the post of the stitch, and work my treble crochet there, or triple crochet. And there I do another one of those, but connecting the stitch on this end, which is this guy over here. Okay, and then I will skip 2 stitches and single crochet 3 at the end. 2 and 3. And again, you can start seeing it. And the edge might be a little bit awkward because you're kind of slanting to the side because of the neckline. So don't worry too much about this at the moment. When you do the edging for the neckline, that's going to get fixed up. And the next row, again, is a wrong side row, which means it's an increase row. In this case, since the last wrong side row we did neck increases, then in this row we will not be doing neck increases. However, if you are making size 4, 5, 7, or 8, then you will be making neck increases on every single row. Just make sure you are following your chart. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. Okay, so this is the back, and these are the sleeves, and this is where the neckline is worked. So I'm going to continue increasing over here and working the lace pattern as it goes. So this is repeated once more for the smaller sizes, and for the other sizes you're going to start adding another cables pattern on the side. So I'm going to work this arrow thing again so you can see it. So you have the 2 front post stitches in the middle, and then you have the side post stitches over here. Now the best thing about this is that most front post stitches from here on out are going to be worked onto other front post stitches, which makes life a lot easier, but not all of them. So we're going to work the next row of the chart, which in this case is a row 15 for me. So I will single crochet 1, and then I'm going to do a front post stitch on the previous, not the previous row, but the row before that. So it's not this one, it's this guy over here. So this is for my first stitch. So I will work it right there. And then 1 single crochet. Again, skip 1 because I've done 1 front post stitch. And then I'm going to do 2 front post stitches attached to these 2 front post stitches. So these are 2 double crochets, front post double crochets. 1 and 2. And then I'm going to skip 2 at the back and do single crochet 1 and 1 more front post stitch on the last stitch of my chart, which is this guy. And I know it's this guy because my marker is marking the next stitch of after my chart. Oopsie, taking my marker with me. There you go. And this is why I love using markers like this, because it shows me the progress of where I've been. So I know that where that marker is, it's no longer part of the chart. So that last stitch before that, that is part of the chart, and that is where I'm going to do my front post stitch. and continue with single crochets until my next chart. Okay, I have reached my front marker, which means that I will work the chart again, but just like before, we are reading it from the left to the right. So I'm going to repeat that until it's time to add an extra section of cables. And I'm going to show you what that looks like, all right? Okay, so far I have worked all the way to row 18. And I'm about to work row 19 for my size, which goes on the way back along the lace and works cables here. Sorry, cables and works cables over here. So my row 19, which is row 19, 23, 23, or 31 on my chart, looks very, very similar to what row 19, 21, 23, and 25 looks for the other sizes over here. So as you can see, I'm going to add another cable on this end, which also corresponds to that cable in the chart, to that front post stitch. And then we're going to start working another pattern of cables along the inside of the neckline. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. So this is row 19, so I've chained 1 to turn. And then I'm going to make a front post double crochet on that very, very first stitch. So just like we did down here, when we worked on the very first stitch, we're going to go in between the turning chain and that next stitch. And then I'm going to single crochet 1, so I'm going to skip that first stitch and go to the next one. And then I'm going to make another front post stitch. So just like before, I skip this one, so then I make my front post on the next one. Then single crochet 1. And then 2 front post stitches connecting to these other front post stitches. So 1 front post double crochet and 2 front post double crochet. And then I'm going to skip 2 and make a single crochet in the next one. And I'm going to finish with a front post double crochet in that first stitch and that last stitch of my chart. And then continue with single crochet until my next section of chart on the other end of the row. All right, so I've worked my next front marker, and then I'm going to start with my chart, reading it now from left to right. So front post double crochet in that first stitch, single crochet 1, then 2 front post double crochets connecting to these guys, and skip 2, single crochet in the next one, then a front post double crochet over here. Again, where do you grab that stitch? Because it is a little bit hard to see. I totally get it. So we can start from the end. I know it's the third one from the end. So this is 1, 2, and this is the third stitch from the end. And how do I know it's the third one from the end? Because I can see the chart that it's the third one from the end. And then single crochet, and in that last stitch I'm going to make a front post double crochet. Again, those edge stitches can be a little bit tricky, but it's the exact same thing. And then work an increase at the neckline on the next one and continue with my raglan increases. Okay, the next row might be a little bit tricky on the cable because I have 2 front post double crochets that connect to this previous post stitch. Okay, because I have increased there, so it might be a little bit tricky, but it's nothing too complicated. So I do 1, and then I do 1 more in that same stitch, and this counts as 2 stitches. So then I'm going to skip the first 2 stitches. I know it's a little bit hard to tell, but there is 1 stitch right there, and then another one there. So I go to that 3rd stitch. You see the 2 loops I'm skipping? And then I single crochet. I will continue working the row as I have in the past with all of the front post stitches that are marked there. After that, I will simply single crochet all around until I reach the other end of my row, where I will work the chart again. All right, so this is the end of the row, and I'm going to work the next bit of chart over here. And just like before, we're going to read it from left to right. Yeah, and then I'm going to make 2 front post stitches onto the last stitch of the previous row. So it's this guy over here. But not the previous row, but the row before the previous one. So 1 double crochet and 2 double crochets. And since this is the end of the row, these 2 are going to stay empty over here. Okay. So this is what it looks like so far. I have my 2 stitches over here together, and I'm going to continue just extending. These 2 are just going to be 2 long ones that run down the middle, and over here I'm going to continue making the V's. So I'm going to work a few more rows of this chart to show you what it looks like when you join at the front. Okay, so this is what it looks like at the end of chart 1. I have finished all of my neck increases, and from now on I'm only going to increase at the raglans but not at the neckline. Now, depending on the size you're making, this might look a little shorter. If you're making sizes 4, 5, 7, and 8, this increases happen a lot more quicker. So this section is a little bit shorter. But now you're going to move on to chart 2. Now chart 2 starts on a wrong side row, which is single crochet, and then gets repeated a certain amount of times, and then only up to row 3 or to row 1. Now my size is size 1, which means that I will repeat chart 2 once, and then I will work rows 1 to 3. For the sake of this demonstration, I have worked up to row 1, and now I am going to do my joining row or joining round on my row 2 of the chart. Depending on your size, you might need to work row 4 or row 2 of chart 2. So I'm going to start on chart 2, row 2, which is single crochet, and then I work my 2 front post stitches, single crochet, okay, so this is the first section of my cables. Now I'm going to continue to single crochet until the other section of cables. Okay, and at the end of the row, I'm going to repeat the same row 2 of the chart, but reading it backwards, right, from left to right. Okay, now that I'm here, I'm going to make my foundation single crochets. So for that, I'm going to insert my hook into that last worked stitch, pull through. I'm going to yarn over, pull through one loop, hold onto that loop, yarn over and pull through two. And I'm going to repeat that in that loop that I've just made. This is my chain, let's call it. So I'm going to insert my hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through two, holding onto this loop until I have the right number of stitches. All right, let me show you again. So insert my hook into that loop at the bottom, yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through one loop, hold on to it, yarn over, pull through two. Okay, I have 11 stitches there, and then I'm going to join it to my front by making a slip stitch in that very first stitch. And then I'm going to pull to tighten and fasten off right there. Okay. And now from now on, you're going to be working in circles. So this one will actually be cut. Okay, so when you work the back, this is the marked stitch. And you're going to attach it, if you're looking at the wrong side, so this is the wrong side of your work, you're going to attach it to the mark stitch, to that raglan stitch, to start working on the back at the wrong side. Okay, because when you work all the way around, you want to join in this stitch. So this stitch is where you're going to work into twice, at the beginning, and then at the end of the row you're going to work in it one more time, and that's where you're going to continue increasing and marking your join. Okay, all right, so I'm going to work on the wrong side of this for my following row. And I am still keeping my marker where my raglan is and increasing on the wrong side. So this is row 1 of chart 3, which, as you can see, row 1 is a gray row, which means that it's a wrong side row. And all you do on the wrong side along the chart is single crochets. After finishing row 1, I will work row 2 on the right side until I reach my first front marker. Okay. As you can see on the previous row, I worked on my foundation stitches there, and now this is very well joined. So because on my previous chart, on chart 2, I did only row 1 instead of working all the way to row 3, then I'm going to be starting chart 3 on row 4, and some of the sizes will start on row 4 as well, but most sizes will start on row 2. So please follow what your size indicates, okay? So row 4, which is very similar to what we've done before, starts with 2 single crochets. So the first section just repeats what we've done before, right? Those V's and these 2 long lines. And then I'm going to single crochet 1. And this is where the fun begins. This is where the new stuff starts. So I will do a front post, double crochet there. Then single crochet, skip 1. Then I'm going to make a crossed over ones. So look at how many stitches you need to skip from the previous one. So that this front post stitch was worked there. And then I need to skip 1, 2, 3 stitches for my next one. 1, 2, 3 stitches. So the next one is going to be worked right here. Okay, and then I'm going to single crochet 1. Okay, so just like we did before, we're going to count stitches instead of just trying to find them. So this is where we did the last front post stitch. We're going to count 1 more, and then the next one, that's where we're going to do this cross. 1, 2, 3, and then skip 1 stitch and single crochet in the next one. Okay, and there goes my cross. The following ones are going to be much easier because they're going to be attached to the cross stitches, to these front post stitches, so they're going to be much easier to find. But we're going to repeat that again, make another cross. Again, the first one is going to be further this way, so we need to count how many stitches further from the last worked stitch with a front post. So this is the last one, it's right there, and we need to do 1, 2, 3 in between. 1, 2, 3. So then this guy is going to be my stitch. And single crochet 1. And now I'm going backwards again. So this is where I last worked my front post stitch. 1 over and then 2. Again, this can be a little bit tricky to see, but you can just muddle through and you'll be fine. And then skip 1 stitch, single crochet, and I'm going to do 1 more front post stitch on this last stitch. So this last one is going to be on this very first foundation stitch, but because it's not attached to anything, it might be a little bit hard to get it, but you're just going to go on the side of it. And there you go, single crochet in the next one. Continue with your chart. Alright, and there you go. That's how you work the charts on the Workwear pullover. So this chart 3, you're going to continue repeating, making the crosses here and here and here, and the V's on this end, and these lines will just continue along down until the yoke is finished. And then when the body goes, you continue doing this, and these markers will be super helpful to help you know when to start and finish the chart. And yeah, I hope this has helped answer all of your questions in regards to this jumper. The neckline afterwards is worked around this opening, and this is where you start the neckline. So you work all the way around and then finish here, and then you start the ribbing horizontally like this all the way around. And then when you finish over here, this little bit of ribbing is going to be sewn onto this edging right here. Wow, well, that was a lot of stuff, but I really hope you found this tutorial helpful. And remember, if you have any questions, you can always join my Facebook group. It's called Nomad Stitchers, and I'm going to put a link in the description below, or you can always email me as well. All of my information is at the bottom of the pattern. You can find my email, you can find my Ravelry, my Instagram. please don't ask me on Instagram, but send me an email and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions or ask in the Facebook group. And there's loads of other makers that have gone through the same things as you have, and they will be very, very happy to help you out. All right, well, have a great day. Happy making, my friends. See you next time. Bye-bye.